The NTSB has announced it is taking a broader look at Norfolk Southern's safety culture after the fiery train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. It is the first investigation like this in nearly a decade. Joining us this morning is Jordan Miller. He is a reporter for Jordan Miller News. He's been on the ground in East Palestine since the very beginning. Jordan, good to see you. I take this as good news that the NTSB is going to be opening up a wider investigation. However, Norfolk Southern doesn't have to take any of their recommendations that they find, correct?
Yeah, that is right, that they don't have to take it, but I do think it's something big to hear that the National Transportation Board, that they're actually going to look into this, and they're calling it a special investigation. And this is only coming because of the series of train derailments and accidents right here in the state of Ohio, including an accident that resulted in the death of one of their conductors yesterday morning.
Right. And in addition to that, there are others. So the most high profile one is the one that we see, the fiery crash in East Palestine. But talk about some of the other accidents that will be included in this broader investigation.
Obviously, the one yesterday morning in Cleveland, Ohio, where a 46-year-old train conductor died after the train and a dump truck collided. We don't have all the details of that yet, but that will be part of the investigation. And then in Steubenville, Ohio, down in Jefferson County, which isn't that far away, maybe a little over an hour away from East Palestine. There was a train derailment there shortly after the train derailed in East Palestine. East Palestine obviously will be included. And then there was a train derailment in Ravenna, Ohio, months ago that they are still cleaning up. And it didn't have the hazardous contamination the way that East Palestine's does, but the one in Ravenna, they're still working on. And then, of course, in Springfield, Ohio, that just happened on Saturday, that a 238-car train or something like that went off the rails. 30 cars went off the rails, and they'll be investigating that as part of this special investigation.
Jordan, at this point, is there any commonality in any of these? Is it speed? Is it the bearings that get overheated on the tracks? What are you hearing?
Right now, the only issue with the bearings that we're hearing is in East Palestine. But it makes me wonder, with the 6-point safety plan that was just released, 4 of the 6 points have everything to do with overheating bearings. So I'm not sure if that is why they believe all of these derailments are happening, or if speed has a factor of it. The people in East Palestine, they'll tell you that they've tried to keep up with the trains, and they're maxing out themselves at 55 miles an hour on a straight road, and they can't keep up with the Norfolk Southern trains that are flying through their town.
Well, Norfolk Southern's accident rate has gone up over the past 4 years. Do we have any indication as of why? And I should mention Norfolk Southern is going to conduct its own investigations.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure as to why we have seen this go up. I've had people ask me if it's because cabooses aren't a thing, where they have people on the back of the train and they're able to view everything. I do know, though, there will be heavy safety measures implemented by Norfolk Southern that hopefully will save lives and prevent these derailments and these inconveniences from happening in these small towns again.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the people of East Palestine often. You are talking to them every single day. I want to talk a little bit more about the testing, the status of the testing. We had heard that the EPA and local health officials had been testing the soil, the air, and then we heard conflicting test results from some scientists from Purdue University. Where is the discrepancy here? What are people to believe?
The people in East Palestine and all throughout Ohio and the country, they already have reason, in their opinion, not to believe the government. They have reason not to believe Norfolk Southern. They're saying, we're doing our own testing. We're bringing in our own people to do testing. And they're saying that the dangerous levels in our water that you're saying aren't that bad. They are saying that there's stuff there that could oppose, that could show health risk to us. And they're wondering, how is the US EPA okay just saying that the water's okay to drink, but you should still drink you should still drink bottled water, that is.
Thank you for watching. Go to NewsNationNow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.